Hello and welcome. This lesson is on volume of spheres. So the first thing we need to know is the formula. So let's take a look. Our formula here is volume is equal to 4/3 pi r cubed. So it's not r squared, it's actually r to the third power. Okay, let's try some examples here. Find the volume of the sphere and round your answer to the nearest tens place. So our formula is volume is equal to 4/3 pi r cubed. So volume is equal to 4/3 times pi times, now our radius here is 6 to the third power. Now plugging this into your calculator is going to be a little bit more on the interesting side. So what I did is I tried to find a calculator that would be a little bit easier for us and maybe a little bit closer to what you might have on, say, your cell phone or a basic calculator. So I found this calculator over here, and we're going to use this one. So when I punch this in, and there are fraction buttons on here, but in my opinion, it's easier for me to just do this 4 divided by 3 and just hit enter. And that should give you 1.3 repeating. Now I'm just going to hit times pi. My pi button is here. And now I'm going to hit times. Now watch this. I'm not going to do 6 to the third, although I can on here. There is a to the third power, but I don't know if what you're using has that button. So I'm just going to do this. I'm going to go 6 times 6 times 6. I'm just going to do that 3 times. And I get an answer of 904.778. Now it says round to the nearest tens place, so let's look. The tens place is a 7, and the digit after that is a 7, so it's 5 or more. Raise that score. So 904.8, and these would be cubic millimeters. Half the battle here is knowing how to use your calculator. So let's take a look at the next one. And this is actually true. The National Museum of Costa Rica has a large spherical stone in the courtyard. The diameter of the stone is about 8 feet. So that's diameter. You got to keep that in mind. So diameter here means it goes all the way across. So going all the way across is 8 feet. That means what is our radius? If the diameter is 8, the radius must be 4 feet. Okay, we want to find the volume of the spherical stone, and we want to round to the nearest tens place. So here we go. 4/3 pi r cubed. So that's going to be 4/3 pi times, now our radius is 4 to the third power. So again, I'm going to come over here to my calculator. Let me clear this. And I'm going to do 4 divided by 3, and I'll hit enter. That should give me 1.3. And I'm just going to multiply it by the rest. So times pi times, now here we go. I'm going to go 4 times 4 times, whoops, I saw 44 in there. So let me do this again. 4 divided by 3 times pi times 4 times 4 times 4. And I'm getting 268 let's see, 268. Now let's talk about rounding here. My tens place is a 0, but my hundredths is an 8. So that hundredths place is 5 or more. I raise that score, and this becomes a 1. And that is going to be feet cubed. Okay, let's try another one here. Okay, our next problem has to do with the hemisphere. A hemisphere is when we have basically a sphere and we cut it into 2 congruent halves. So a hemisphere would be half of that. So there's this lovely formula. I typically use the 1/2 times your 4/3 pi r cubed. Some people like to simplify this equation and use this equation instead, which is basically it's just 2/3 pi r cubed. So you can do that. I like to memorize just one formula, the 4/3 pi r cubed, and then I typically just put the half in front of it. But You do whatever you would like to do. So we're going to find the volume of the hemisphere. Now careful, because this one says it has a diameter of 15. A diameter of 15, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to do 15 divided by 2, and that's going to give us 7.5. The reason is that if you look at this hemisphere right here, it said the diameter is 15. We, of course, need the radius. So the radius is equal to 7.5. All right. Whoops, I don't know why I wrote a third. Let me fix that. So 1/2. And then I typically will do my 4/3 pi r cubed. So in this case, it's going to be 1/2 times 4/3 times pi times 7.5 to the third power. Now that's going to be a lot to type in your calculator. If you want, again, you could do this. You could do a little simplifying here. 2 goes in there once, 2 goes in there twice, making it a little bit easier for us to type in our calculator. Okay, let's type it in. So this time I'm going to do 2 divided by 3. Hopefully you know what 2/3 is equal to. So I know I'm right. I know it's 0.6 repeating. Times pi times 7.5 times 7.5 times 7.5. And that gives me 58.904. Let me just check that real quick. And the calculation looks good. However, I didn't read the directions, did I? Because the directions say write your answer in terms of pi. So I goofed here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clear this, and I'm going to do this correctly. And when it says in terms of pi, we actually don't hit the pi button on our calculator. So I'm just going to do this again, but instead of hitting the pi button, I'm just going to do everything else. So I'm going to do 2 divided by 3, hit enter, times 7.5 times 7.5 times 7.5, and that's going to give me 281.25. So when I write my answer, I'm going to write it as 281.25. Keep the pi symbol on there. And this is going to be kilometers to the third power. Now we're done. Okay, so that's what it is in terms of pi. I knew I had made a mistake in there. Something I knew was wrong. Okay, let's take a look at another one. Find the volume of the following figure if the diameter is 4.5. Okay, so that means the diameter going all the way across is 4.5. I, of course, will need the radius. So I'm going to do 4.5 divided by 2. So 4.5, let me clear this, divided by 2, and that's going to give me a radius of 2.25. That's good. So I know my radius is 2.25. So find the volume of the following figure. So now we have the radius that we need, and the height is actually 2.5. That's going to be important. And this one says round to the nearest tenths place. I'll be more careful on this problem and actually read all the way through first. So volume, our total volume, is going to be, let's see, we're going to have to find the volume of our hemisphere plus the volume of our sphere. So that means my volume is going to be 1/2 times 4/3 pi r cubed plus pi r squared h, because that's the formula for a cylinder. So volume is equal to 1/2 times 4/3 times pi, we're actually going to hit the pi button here, times, okay, that's 2.25 to the third power plus pi times 2.25 squared times 2.5. There's a lot of 2's and 5's here. All right, let's go over to our calculator here. So I think I'm going to simplify this so it's a little bit easier for me to put into my calculator. So now I have 2 divided by 3. 2 divided by 3. That's good. And we are rounding, so I'm going to hit the pi button. So times pi times 2.25. Now I think I might use this symbol right here. I think I might give that a try. And I think that's right. Okay. And actually, I just forgot to hit enter on that. So the volume is actually approximately 23.856. I'm just going to take it out 4 decimal places. Now I'm going to punch in the other one. So that's going to be pi times 2.25 times 2. Having trouble with it. So pi times 2.25. Maybe I'll just use my square button here. You probably have that button on your calculator. Times 2.5. And this is what I forgot to do in the last one. Just hit equals. And that's going to give me 39.7607. So now as long as I still have that on the screen, I'm just going to hit plus 23.8564, and I'll do my rounding to the nearest tenths place here. So I'm getting volume is approximately 63.6, right? Because we got to round it. The digit after the 6 is a 1. That's 4 or less. I'm going to let it rest. And that is going to be inches cubed. All right, we have one last problem here. Let's check out this one. So we have a sphere that actually fits inside of this cylinder here. And it says find the remaining volume of the cylinder. So it's basically like we're putting a ball inside of a cylinder. And now there's all this empty space here. We got to find the volume of that. So what we can do to find our total volume here, or just volume in general, is we can find the volume of the cylinder and subtract out the volume of the sphere. So find the volume of the whole thing and then subtract out the ball. Okay, so find the volume of the whole thing and then subtract the ball. That should work. All right, so the cylinder is pi r squared h, and the sphere is our 4/3 pi r cubed. So this is pi times radius here. So it says find the volume of the cylinder. The cylinder has a height of 6, so that means this has a height of 6. And the radius of the cylinder is 3. So that means from here over is 3. Now that also means from here over is 3. Anywhere here from here over is 3. So what that means is the radius of our sphere is also going to be 3. Okay, so that's 3. So we end up with 3 squared times the height, which is 6, minus 4/3 times pi times 3 to the 3rd power. Okay, let's see. And it does tell us that the ball has a radius of 3. So even if we couldn't figure it out from the picture, they did tell us. Okay, write your answer in terms of pi. Again, I don't want to make that mistake again. So that means I'm going to basically do my calculations, but I'm not going to use the pi symbol on my calculator. So when I type this first one in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 3 squared, which actually I could do in my head. 3 squared is 9. 9 times 5, or 9 times 6 is 54. So this is going to be 54 pi. This one you could do on your calculator if you wanted to. That's 4 divided by 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. and that gives us 36. So this is going to be 36 pi. And now, because they both have a pi symbol on them, they are like terms. They're like terms because they both have the same pi symbol on it. If one had a pi symbol and the other didn't, we couldn't do this. So now I'm just going to do 54 minus 36, and that's 18. So my answer here is 18 pi, and that is going to be meters cubed. And we are done. So your independent practice today is going to be doing the 8 practice problems from the attached homework sheet on my website. You don't need to print anything. All you need to do is just take your own piece of paper, grab a calculator, and do the practice problems. Remember, it's not cheating to use my answer key if you're having a hard time trying to figure something out. And if you have any questions, please make sure you email me or send me a message in Teams, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Good luck, you guys.